You're watching a Clip from the Club podcast.
Make sure you follow it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and give it a 5-star review.
So here you go, is a lovely clip from our podcast. Yes, people, what's going on? This clip from the club is sponsored by the lovely people over at NordVPN. Remember, they have some exclusive offers for you guys that you can get exclusively part of the club. NordVPN.com/the club. They've got 4 months extra free offer on at the moment. And because it's their 11th birthday, they've got some birthday bonanza bonus deals going down. I use NordVPN mainly to watch football all around the world that I can't get. And you know when you're on social media and stuff and it says this clip is not available in your region? Well, with NordVPN on your phone or on your laptop, you can simply change your location to a location that can view that clip and then watch your goals happy days. You can also use NordVPN with one account on 6 devices. So everyone in my house has got onto my NordVPN. It's absolutely quality. Anyway, enjoy this clip. Make sure you check out NordVPN and I'll see you in a bit.
Welcome back to the club. Graham Potter has left Chelsea Football Club. What do you make of that? It's crazy, isn't it?
Very kind wording. Very kind wording. Has he left? Or has he been given a tic-tac?
He's been kicked out the door.
Exactly.
But apparently a very noble departure. He sort of showed his face at the training ground and just sort of left amicably.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, because you know what I thought was quite revealing, Buvey? I don't know if you noticed, but I follow certain players on social media. Not many of this current squad, because I don't love many of them, but I follow a fair few. What I thought was fairly apparent was there was a lack of, you know, that performative message that people put out.
Heart emojis and... Yeah,
I haven't seen many of those. Yeah. I haven't seen that message. You know, that sort of, like Thiago Silva, for example, hasn't mentioned it. There's a lack of love that I've seen.
Is that because it's a shock? Is that because he was only there for 6 months and he had such a little impact on the
I think the latter.
Squad?
I think the latter. I think the time that he was there is probably neither here nor there, because I think you can make a huge impact in 7 months. But I think it is a slight peek for us behind the curtain as to how the squad may have felt about him. Just say nothing if you've got nothing nice to say, effectively. So I think it's the correct decision. I think the club have acted finally, decisively. I don't know if it's still, if I'm using the right word, is it decisive if it comes late? But it's decisive even though it should have happened at least 2 months ago.
Is his biggest issue his legacy at Chelsea, however brief it is it down to the fact it's not bad or good? It's kind of this weird, bland, kind of lack of direction. He wasn't ever angry. He was never calling out players. There, even with someone like Ralph Rangnick, right? Terrible appointment. He kind of called out players. He kind of made these big statements in press conferences. Will Potter regret the fact that he was never able to address the elephant in the room, which is he had a lot of investment, a lot of brand new players that he had to work with. He's almost given a dodgy hand.
Yeah, I think it's a missed opportunity for him. I think you're right. I think he'll look at this opportunity and think that he never really seized it. He never really owned it. He felt like a puppet. He felt like he was intimidated by the players. He felt like he was scared to call out what was going on above him. And he felt like he was very grateful to be in the job. That isn't a strategy that you can adopt and hope to get very far, because you need to have a level of belief in yourself and a level of arrogance to manage a club like Chelsea. You have to have a certain stature, a certain status, a certain approach that is in keeping with the traditions of the club, and I'm afraid he didn't have any of that. But I would also now take issue with what you said. Again, you're in a very kind mood today, Booth, because you said something like it wasn't good or it wasn't bad. I would contest that to my dying breath. I think it was abysmal.
Awful.
I think it was truly awful. And I think that, I think people will potentially say that he wasn't given enough time, and I think that when he was employed, the purpose of the employment was to change strategy for Chelsea, change direction, become a slightly more holistic club, and out with the old, in with the new. And he wasn't, arguably at least, wasn't given long enough to impart his wisdom in the team. But I'm afraid he made so many errors that are just unacceptable at this level. Like, you can make those errors at Brighton.
What's the big one that stands out for you? You obviously know more than me. For me, it's the general kind of approach. You got Cucurella heading a ball back for Ollie Watkins, or you got Mudryk going up front and absolutely fluffing a chance against Aston Villa. It's kind of from head to toe of Chelsea Football Club on the pitch. Is there any standout moments that you think that he's completely out of his depth on a footballing level?
I think there are two ways to look at this. Firstly, there is a personal. The man, look at the way he conducts himself. He's not a Chelsea manager. And there are examples that we can talk about for that. And then the football. Like, he has made so many errors, so many. And look, we can use multiple case studies. I think what you saw against Aston Villa was shambolic. Like playing Reece James and Mark Cucurella as the two centre halves alongside Koulibaly effectively means that you only have one proper defender on the pitch.
Yeah.
Because Cucurella's approach is forward. Reece James's approach is forward. They're not defenders. They're not defenders in the way that Trevor Chalobah is a defender. They're not defenders in the way that Benoit Badiashile is a defender. They're defenders in name, but not necessarily in approach.
Yeah.
So I think that is an issue, and there were many examples in that game that I think we can use. I think we spoke about this as well, but Chelsea needed a goal. Mason Mount has more goal contributions than any other Chelsea player last season. Bring him on.
It's crazy.
Bring him on. He sat on the bench.
Yeah.
Starting McKola Mudryk. He's not ready to start. It's clearly an error.
Yeah.
I think that there are many examples in that game that I think we got wrong. But do you know where I think it was really lost? I think everybody has their moment when they lose faith in the manager. But when it really hit me, I think for a lot of people it was Southampton at home. We lost to Southampton. That wasn't it for me. It was Tottenham.
Yeah.
It was Tottenham. Chelsea. It's so important, Chelsea-Tottenham. It means so much. It's not about bragging rights. It's about being. It's about identity. It's about who we are. We don't get beat by Tottenham. It hasn't been acceptable at Chelsea for 35 years. And he goes there, loses, and then talks about how good we were.
He's soft about it, yeah.
I talks about how good we were. And there were so many mistakes made that day.
Yeah.
So many mistakes made that day. Like Hakim Ziyech. He was a Rizzler paper away from leaving the club. Suddenly he's starting.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be there. He's done his best to get sent off. He's trying to go to Paris. It was a fax machine issue or whatever the modern day equivalent is. That's why he wasn't a Paris Saint-Germain player.
Yeah.
So it was the game against Tottenham and then the reaction to the Tottenham game. Like there were so many examples in that Tottenham game that made me think this is just abysmal. And Everton at home,
Everton at home, yeah.
Do you remember at Everton at home? We had McKola Mudryk on the pitch and on the bench, and we're winning. Christian Pulisic, who's had quite a good game, has to come off because he has to come off. He's gone off, and Chelsea are winning at home to a team that can't get anything away from home. Sean Dyche's Everton, right? They're losing at Stamford Bridge. Their heads are gone. They're not thinking of getting anything out of it. Do you know what you can do? You have two options here. You can go for the jugular. You can bring on Mudryk, give Ian Wone and Sean Dyche something to worry about, make them think, make them look backwards.
Yeah.
Or you can go defensive. Or you can go 3-5-2. You can change your shape entirely. You can go defensive. You can bring on Conor Gallagher. So they have one less attacker to worry about. They have one less problem. They can commit extra men forward.
Yep.
And guess what? The game finishes 2-2.
Yeah, it's criminal.
So,
absolutely criminal. Is he culpable of sort of making too many decisions? Do these modern managers, when they don't succeed, are they culpable of not being... Look at Ancelotti at Real Madrid. He puts the best players in the best positions to succeed. And we see it as a kind of antiquated thing. But is Graham Potter kind of culpable of this kind of... I remember when he first joined Chelsea, and he was like, we're going to play 4 at the back, but there's going to be moments where we're going to be a 3, and then we're going to change into a 5. Yeah. We're going to have 1 up front, then he's going to drop. You just think, mate, you've got to put this thing, it's called a football, into a goal, into a big net.
And then stop the other keepers
in front of 50,000 people.
Yeah, you do that.
You run
stop
down
him
the
doing
wing.
that.
Yeah, it's a bit of pace and all that. And for me, my only thing for him is I think that the lack of goal scoring ability at Chelsea. I think it could have been Guardiola, could have been Sir Alex Ferguson.
No.
I think you need someone to put something into the back of the net.
Okay,
for me.
You really want to talk this?
I'm not saying he still would be there.
Hang on, let's do this because there's you make some very interesting points here, and you're totally correct and very funny. Play players in their position and score goal. Like football can be really complex, and we can make it this like science almost, or we can just go score more goals than the other team and you win the game. And you're right. And Ancelotti does adopt that policy, and it works. And Pep Guardiola is always looking for an edge and trying different things and playing Bernardo Silva as a fullback, for example, when it works. And Graham Potter tried to do that. He played Ruben Loftus-Cheek as a what are you doing? Yeah. Ruben Loftus-Cheek's not good enough to play for Chelsea. Certainly not good enough to play for Chelsea out of position. So what are you doing? But I'm just going to pick up on something because again, it's Monday morning. You're in a very kind mood. You've done it again because you've been really generous.
Spring.
Again.
It's a beautiful time of the year.
Yeah, you're a happy man at the moment.
Chelsea are in the
have you? Is that what?
No, it's Chelsea in the bottom half.
Is that what it is?
For me, unfortunately, that's just a sad state of my life.
Fair. Well, you've done it again for the hat trick. You've knocked in the hat trick because you've gone. He hasn't got the goal scorer, and you might be right. But at the club, he has at his disposal, should he choose to use it, Aubameyang. I don't like Aubameyang. I don't want Aubameyang at Chelsea. I think he's a disruptive presence, and I have no love for him as a footballer or a man.
You can't give him a broken hammer. That isn't a. I get the idea of on his day he could score a goal in the Premier League. Of course, you're right, 1,000,000%. But I'm talking about a striker that's ready to play football. Mason Mount is a midfielder ready to play football at the Premier League level, at a very, very high level for Chelsea. I don't think you can justifiably say Aubameyang was an answer for Graham Potter. He's just come in. He's been asked to kind of adopt this approach to youth, this progressive approach. Going to Aubameyang, who's had such disciplinary issues at Arsenal and Barcelona. For me, it's giving him a faulty hammer. For me, it's a shame that Chelsea don't have.
He's the best finisher at the club.
Yeah, he is. But it's a shame that Potter, obviously I don't care, but it's a shame that Chelsea, they spent 100 million quid on Lukaku. It obviously didn't work, and that was part down to his issue, not Graham Potter or anyone else. That's Lukaku being a bit of a dickhead himself. But there's no striker there. How can you bundle in goals after goals? I mean, you create so many chances. When you were good under Graham Potter, however limited that is, you still couldn't score a goal. I mean, the amount of chances you create in Dortmund, absolutely incredible. So I think Guardiola would have struggled. You need a goal scorer. You need Aguero.
You have your version. Okay, Aguero's arguably the best striker that the Premier League's ever seen. Arguably. He's not in my opinion, but arguably. So you don't need him because come around once every
Guardiola did all this incredible stuff. He had to rest his hat still.
I'm going to go back to Aubameyang. You have Aubameyang, and it's your responsibility to get performances out of him.
Yeah.
But where we go from here, I'm worried because I've got a terrible feeling that they're going to do something crazy and totally in keeping with their philosophy when there is an obvious right answer, in my opinion.
What is the obvious right answer for you? And then we can talk about Todd Bowley's...
Okay, the obvious right answer is any of three. I have a jewel in the crown of my three. But any of these three are the correct answer. Zinedine Zidane, Jose Mourinho, Carlo Ancelotti.
Who's number one for you?
Carlo Ancelotti. Carlo Ancelotti is, in my opinion, the correct choice. Look, I can't believe that I'm saying this, but apparently Real Madrid aren't overly convinced, which doesn't make any sense to me. It literally doesn't make any sense to me. He's holding the European Cup. He is arguably the best manager to have ever lived. That is who Carlo Ancelotti is. Yeah. What he has achieved has only been achieved by him. He's the only person that has gone country after country after country, the 5 top leagues in Europe, possibly the world, and pissed the league.
Do you try and get him mid-season? You think that's...
But apparently they want rid.
Yeah.
And maybe not.
But on the eve of the game against you lot, it's crazy to think.
My dream, get him today. Yeah. But if that doesn't work and he's going to be leaving Real Madrid in the summer, I don't mind. Let things stay as they are for now.
So that is, just so everyone knows, that is Bruno, obviously former Brighton legend, is managing your club, which is absolutely crazy. Is he a viable option?
No, of course not.
In terms of your interim managers, the Di Matteos of the world, the Gus Hiddink's of the world, getting over the line in certain competitions. You've only got a few games left.
We've only got 2 games left.
2 games left, and then a few in the Premier League just to get people going.
We've only got form for next season. Chelsea have 2 games left, and if Real Madrid away goes badly, Chelsea have 1 game left.
Yeah,
like we literally have. That's all we have to play for, and I'd like us to hopefully contribute to the title by taking points off Arsenal. In the most generous fashion, we've got 3 games left. Beat Arsenal, beat Real Madrid twice. That's it. But realistically, that doesn't happen. Realistically, Arsenal slap us again, and Real Madrid beat us home and away. That's how it goes. So this season is a write-off. So I don't particularly care now. Don't make a bad move. Don't make a wrong move.
Yeah.
Sit tight. Don't panic. Interview people. Give it the due diligence that it deserves.
Yep.
Meet the right people, and don't mess it up. That's ultimately the message.
Is there a big name that you are absolutely scared of?
Yeah, there's a big name I don't want.
I want to use Tony Hawk, the German Tony Hawk.
Yes, that's who I don't want. Well, for many reasons, and I'm afraid this is going to sound slightly prejudiced against. Is it ageism if you're prejudiced downward? You're allowed to punch down. Like ageism
I think you're allowed to punch down.
Yeah, I'm allowed to.
You've got experience on your side.
I'm allowed to be prejudiced against youth. You're not allowed to be prejudiced against old people. Is that how it works?
Maybe, yeah. You got to respect your elders.
You respect your elders, but you can be snide about youngsters.
Yeah.
okay, I don't want Nagelsmann for many reasons. One of them is his age. What I think Chelsea...
35 years old.
What I think he becomes the youngest manager in the Premier League. What I think Chelsea need is somebody with stature, status,
Weight.
an imposing, terrifying figure that has prestige and silverware and status. And I think all of the people I said have all of the above in abundance. He doesn't. And I think that we could be Graham Potter Mark II with Nagelsmann.
That's exactly what I thought.
I think it feels like it could just go the same way again. At 35, he's going to be impressionable because you should be. As a young, if Nagelsmann is around Ancelotti, he should be impressionable. You're going to be affected when you're young. You should learn. You and I, every day, we learn from other people. We learn from one another, or I learn from you at least. It's your responsibility to absorb, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he is at that stage of his career.
Yeah.
We don't need somebody impressionable. We need somebody who will push back to the owners.
The club can look up to them.
Exactly.
Like Ancelotti.
There's no point in having a manager like Nagelsmann, whose responsibility it is to be open to new ideas, taking counsel from Todd Bowley and Eghbali, which is the situation that Graham Potter was in.
Yeah, 100%.
We need somebody to go, we're going to spend £500 million again in January. We're going to do that to your squad. Somebody needs to go, don't do that to my squad. It's de-state. Look, I don't think Graham Potter's a good manager, but he wasn't exactly given like it's very difficult for even the most experienced manager to navigate that terrain. Like another abundance of footballers landing at the club, another 600 million spent dealing with the pressures that come with that.
I saw it at Man City, and Mancini that's why he's such a legend at our club, because he was able to, he was bigger than Tevez, he was bigger than Yaya Toure, bigger than David Silva. He was able to kind of control all these guys.
Also bigger than the owners. What you need is, it's not, maybe big is the wrong word, but what Chelsea need is somebody who is prepared to say to Eghbali, no. Don't sign Mudryk.
Or sack me, because I don't need this job. I don't need this job.
Yeah, but what I think happens in those situations is it doesn't come to that because of respect. I think Graham Potter may have had to have gone, don't do this or sack me, because that's all he's got. All he's really got is the threat of leaving.
Yeah.
And even that threat's not that big because there's better managers in the world. Whereas Ancelotti goes, don't do that.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
Don't sign Mudryk. I don't want him. Do you know at the club, we've currently got 6 players that can play in that position. So don't sign him.
Yeah.
I don't want him. That's the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
Don't sign Cucurella. I don't want him.
Is there any manager that could have pushed back on, that example is really interesting. Do you think if Ancelotti was the manager at Chelsea, or even Thomas Tuchel, if he'd stayed throughout January, is the project so much bigger than any one manager? They just get signed anyway?
Maybe it was when Tuchel was there. But surely, and this is speculation and optimistic speculation at that, maybe they've learned. Maybe, and I hope, that there is a developmental side to this story where Clearlake look at what's happened and say, do you know what? We aren't God's gift. We aren't the oracle. We aren't the answer. We don't know everything.
Yep.
We don't have the answer to every football-related problem, despite the fact that we're really rich and we're billionaires and we're very successful in our field. We don't know everything about everything. Do you know what is a really worrying story? It happened a long time ago. But I think it tells us everything that we need to know about Todd Bowley. I'm hoping that there is a watershed moment here and he is now a new man. But he made himself sporting director of the club. The man had never worked in European sport. This ain't a football thing. This ain't even a Premier League thing. This is European sport. Yeah. There's no, he has no, if I said to you, he hasn't worked in the Premier League before, you might go, bit dangerous that. If I said to you, he hasn't worked in football before, you'd go, that's a risk that. If I said to you, he hasn't worked in sport, you go, well, he ain't the man for the job, is he? When he employed Graham Potter, he can't have known that Graham Potter was the right man for the job at the time, because he wouldn't have known who Graham Potter was. Let's face it. He wouldn't have known who Brighton and Hove Albion were.
No, he's probably getting it from a Twitter thread. A Twitter thread sort of doing the XG of Brighton and Hove Albion versus, Burnley last season. Do you know what I mean?
But what crazy. I'm hoping because it's been, sometimes life can give you a gift in a very mysterious way, can't it? How this was so bad. Honestly, I think Graham Potter is Chelsea's worst ever manager in the recent era. Like, this is comparable to anything that has happened since Glenn Hoddle took over, right, which is 1993. Nothing has happened this bad to Chelsea. So Glenn Hoddle took over. That's kind of when my football consciousness woke up. That's when I was a Chelsea fan. I was at the 94 Cup final. Yeah. I was aware. Nothing has been as bad as this.
That's crazy.
Nothing.
It's crazy.
And there's been some bad times. You know, we've had Scolari, we've had Andre Villas-Boas, we've had the terrible era of Rafael Benitez, which is painful.
Like Hiddink a little bit.
Hiddink second time wasn't great.
Yeah.
Time, first time he won the cup, but second time wasn't great.
And the Lampard wasn't great.
That was fine.
But you know what I mean in terms of results.
I don't know what you mean.
The energy was great. You loved it. Rory loved it.
Don't put words into my mouth. There's nothing wrong with that era. As you know,
Lampard's unemployed.
As you know, I have a blind spot that I will never relinquish.
I know what it's like. Yeah, 100%.
So don't do that again. But no, this has been as bad as it's got, and that is because the club, not only Potter, but the mechanism at the club, who the club are, the identity of the club, has been totally unravelled. Our winning DNA has been totally unravelled in less than a year under this new ownership. Our whole identity is in crisis at the moment. But I'm being very hopeful here. Maybe the fact that it went so badly.
Yeah, there's some sort of...
They go, okay, right, what do we need? What we need is somebody with status, somebody who's proven, and somebody who there is... Like, you know, with Graham Potter, maybe there isn't a ceiling to how good it could have gone, but there also isn't a ceiling there isn't a floor as to how deep it could have sunk. So Chelsea could have finished 16th with Graham Potter in charge. You know, if you get one of the managers that I said, one of the three, it can't go that badly.
Yeah,
you know, if Ancelotti's your manager, and it goes really badly, you finish fourth and win the cup, and you win the cup.
Yeah.
Like, even if, like, you know if Zinedine Zidane is your manager and he doesn't land in the Premier League, it doesn't work. You finish third and go to the semi-finals of the Champions League.
I don't know about Zidane. That's the only one for me.
Do you know, this is amazing? I have another blind spot and you've just tapped into it. We're going off topic here, but this is amazing. I was having this conversation with my dear friend Ade. You know, certain things I can't understand in football. That's it. You know, the people that go, Erling Haaland's not a very good footballer. And I'm just like, oh my God, okay, your opinion is wicked. I can't understand it. I also made the mistake. I was a bit like it with Cristiano Ronaldo. You know, when he was scoring all those goals for Manchester United and people were like, he's not very good. I was like, he scored 24 goals, mate. He's good.
Yeah.
And I just can't process it. The Zidane slander as a manager is just something that just blows my mind. I just don't get it. The geezer won 3 European Cups in a row. That makes him arguably the greatest ever manager, in my opinion. It doesn't make him have question marks over who he is. I just think he's amazing.
I think with the Chelsea project being such an abject failure so far, I think he takes City to win. He could win back-to-back Premier Leagues with City. He's like 100%. But Chelsea trying to get Mudryk to hit a ball on target with pace. Let's wrap up some final predictions. For you, is it Bruno to the end of the season? Do you win in the Champions League? And then who's that final man at the start of June the 1st? Is it Ancelotti for you?
My hope of what I actually think will happen.
Yeah, head and heart.
My belief and what I think is best and what I hope happens is Ancelotti with John Terry alongside him. That's my hope.
That's good. Yeah, sounds good.
My belief is that it's Nagelsmann with his elbow pads and all that.
He skates into Stamford Bridge and he loses 10-0 on aggregate to Real Madrid.
Something like
that sounds like the reality for me. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Obviously, let us know in the comments down below who should replace Graham Potter and where will Graham Potter go? We could talk about that later in a different video. Yeovil Town. Come on. Conference, mate. Conference football for Graham Potter. Obviously, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you very, very soon.